Okay, I'll get us started a little bit early. Go ahead and get logged in and today this is the 25th and we'll continue on. I wanted to make sure that I alleviated any confusion I might have caused about that business intelligence text, that sports analytics exercise, and I'll have to look at the others. But what I want you guys to do when you log in, you'll see, is to go over to Teradata University and then if you haven't registered, register. And then there's a sports analytics page and explore it and give me a summarize at least 2 applications of analytics in any sports of your choice. So that was what I'm after. Now I also that's what I was. And I had a different thing on data mining, and I'm going to take a look at those other exercises that I have for you. But that's what I want you to do. And the summary, I probably should mention this. The summary includes many print screens as you want. And I think I'll just edit that right now. But anyway, that's what I wanted done for it. So let me go back to the module, and we'll talk today about, we're going to take a look at unions, and that's going to be chapter 15. So you want to take a look at your textbook over there. Oh, I apologize. I've been a little bit under the weather, and I got out. I did too much over fall free days. All right. I got what I did to myself is I got outside, out where I live. We've got coyotes out a little bit to the south of where we live, and so I wanted to hear them because about this time of the year they come up. So I got out and stayed up a couple of nights, and it's hard to get pictures of them because the minute you move, they know you're there. But they're pretty cool to listen to. You can get fairly close. And they're really scared of us. Okay, let's see. We got someone else. Okay. And we're going to look at chapter 15 today. Now, as usual, I'm working ahead. And we had looked at 13 and 14. And 15 moves us into, here it is on the data warehousing. And the 15 moves us into dealing with unions, and this is the part of the text where you'll get some real value, other than I think at the first part where we look at production databases and all that and data warehouses, because we're going to get to see how we can take tables and combine them, split them apart, and do all kinds of things. And so when we move to doing, when we start plumbing through tables, then we have a larger set of data. And so the law of large numbers is really on our side in terms of capturing the type of information that we want. And what you should notice as we've gone through this, and this is again more of a, we've been looking at what one would call the method of data admin. Now, I talked for a moment about the methodology, meaning the philosophy behind it. One of them is that we really use these tools to extract data and then clean it up, i.e. refine it, just like we would any other natural resource, like we would a natural resource, for example. There's another group, and it's a newer group of people, younger, and a movement out there that says, no, what we want to do is take the law of large numbers and use it to our advantage, meaning the more stuff we collect, the more likely it is that we're going to find something, or we'll discern a pattern. Now, one of the things I've seen for years, and I've been serving on it as a journal reviewer for a long time, is the problem of what we call multiple tests of significance. And when you took your stat course, maybe you did a test of significance, you put the alpha level to see if this maybe a z-score was statistically significant or whatever. The truth is, if you put your pole in the water enough times in a large enough pool, you'll catch a fish. It's just as simple as that. So folks who say the methodology for databases and architecture should be capture everything we can, okay, and use the law of large numbers to our advantage. That's one approach. And there's a third approach, I think, more practical, where people say we want to do one, we really want to try to do both and try to figure out when it's appropriate for us to use one versus the other, but have the tools to really go in and bore and extract, or use the law of large numbers. And when you've heard all this business out there about metadata and the government and watching people and all of that, the main culprits involved in that are going to be the, I think, 11 or 12 intelligence agencies that exist. One of them is the National Security Agency. I think they're the ones, and the FBI, who are constantly going to the phone companies and saying we have some metadata and it indicates we might have an issue here. And it's going to be it's a lawyer's dream, because it's going to be one of these things that's going to be fought and argued over that, because it has two sides to that coin. One is the security of the country, okay? If we learned anything from 9/11, it was if our agencies don't talk to each other, and if the different components of our agencies don't talk to each other, things will slip through the crack. And we learned that more than anything. The government knew something was going to happen, but did nothing because we couldn't get the competing agencies to line themselves up and take necessary precautions. And I think probably the one is, and I've read all of that because, and as I've studied management decision making and MIS and all that business, it's been interesting to me to see how that all unfolded. And I think probably the most telling fact in all of it is that when we had 3 people from the Middle East on visas go out to Phoenix, Arizona, who had no experience flying an airplane, didn't have a pilot's license, say we'd like to learn how it works, how an airliner simulator works. It should have been a red flag or an alarm bell. And in fact, the owner of that company called the FBI, and that FBI regional office set on that data. So who knows? So that's that's a piece of this. And when we start to work with tables, we're moving into the realm of the laws of large data, because we're going to start combining tables as opposed to extracting data. So we're going to look at that. Now, we'll want to go ahead, excuse me, and we'll want to take a look at, of course, let's pull out our trusty friend to our little warehouse, SQL 2007, okay? And we'll get the code for 15. And so we'll go down and get that access code. And we'll copy, I'm going to copy mine and just paste it out there on the desktop. Okay, there we go. Where did I throw you to? Okay. I'll paste it again. And let me find it here for just a second. I threw it up here. I'm going to have to clean my desktop. Yeah, I'll have to back up and grab it. But we're going to work with tables. Now, if you take a look there on page in chapter 15, right at the very start, page 537. Now, just to the left of that, you're going to see page 536 unnumbered, but an outline of the chapter topics. They're going to kind of acquaint us with some union basics. Then they're going to show us some what they call unconventional unions, and then some applications of them. Now, at the bottom of that is set intersection and set difference in Oracle. Oracle has a little bit different twist on this. And again, Oracle, the two competing firms that have the biggest market share out there in terms of what you're going to encounter with the data of the dashboard, they're going to be SAS, SAP, and Oracle. It's going to be one of those three if you work for a large company. And so this exercise here in this appendix, where if you want to, you can, it's back on page 751. So where if you want to, you can download a free copy of Oracle and work with it. Might not be, it would be to your advantage maybe to do it if you want to put it on your machine. You can always get rid of it. And it has step-by-step instructions. And I say that so that when you go out and apply for a job, or you get a job and someone says, does anybody here have an experience, say, with Oracle? You can say, I have some. And I've tried in these courses, these information science or these information systems and strategies courses to build in those high market, let me see, the most prevalent or most commonly used types of tools are out there. Now, as I've said before, there's a great convergence going on. That is folks trying to take these database tools and marry them to an analytic engine, i.e. a spreadsheet type of thing. Probably, I would say SAS Visual Analytics is about as close as it gets, but SAP is well on the way. Well, nonetheless, if you take a look there at page 537, okay, you're going to see that you're going to see that they are showing you the difference between a union and a join, okay? Now, if you look there at the union, all right, has more of an additive property. In other words, you're taking everything in A and everything in B, and you're really just adding them all together, okay? So that gives you one dynamic. If you do a join of two tables, then you move into something that's more like an associative property, like you're multiplying, and that will give you a sense of the scale with which you can get a set of numbers or sets of data. So they do a pretty good job there of differentiating what they call the geometry of the two of those. And you'll want to take a look there, okay, in 15.1 in that narrative to understand it. Now, this is important not just for the databases, but it's more important for a company's policy or strategy. If a company says, okay, we're going to go with a traditional kind of approach where we're in the extraction business, okay, then they better be in an industry or handle a set of products or product service bundles where that makes sense. If they're not, you need to be out there in the law of large numbers. Now, intuitively, all of you've had enough courses at this point, I know, and you're smart enough to say, if I'm selling consumer products, I probably want to play around in the law of large numbers. Why? Well, because with consumer products, branding is exceptionally strong. Now, I don't know how many of your marketing majors, those listening in or here, but we can do a procedure called a Markov analysis. And the Markov analysis is one of these classic things. The classic is where this person uses product A, and there's a probability that they'll switch to B, and then there's a probability they'll stay with A, and it becomes this tree. It's a set of permutations. And what we know is we've run the Markov analysis enough times that at about the sixth iteration, things get frozen and people get married or bought into a brand. And so switching them is exceptionally difficult. Consumer products is the monster on all that one. So whether you would want to attack or go after your competitor's position, or you would want to try to strengthen your position, you're going to have a lot of data. And you're going to have to play with the law of large numbers. Okay? This is a little bit different from what you would say with a heavy, not heavy, but let's say a durable like refrigerators, washers, dryers, etc. People go after features. They go after certain capabilities of the machine, etc. Okay? And For me, I've had a bitter disappointment. We bought a new refrigerator, and I wanted one that has the internet deal, you know, little screen, so I can touch it, it'll talk to me on junk. But no, my wife had to have one that has a little door inside. You can pop it out and get your soft drinks, whatever. So every day I live with what could have been. So I'm pretty embittered about it. But, you know, I've prayed, and I know it'll be a growth thing for me. And if you're sitting there saying, if you have those kinds of problems in your life, let me give you some of mine. I'm just making light. But when we went shopping, it was interesting because I was listening to conversations. Now we were like any other couple of schmucks. We wandered off to Lowe's, and then we went to what's the other, Home Depot, and talked to them. And usually one of the things that's interesting, secret market shoppers have found that usually, you know who gets the sale? Somebody who has a salesperson in the area. It kind of works like that. If you don't have a salesperson, if you've ever you will do home repair, and you will have those skittish Saturday afternoons where you go in and you go, I'm not quite sure what this is. Can somebody help me? And, you know, Bobby Joe's down the aisle talking to his favorite contractor, and Silly Sue's up here doing something else. And folks are, you know, who knows what's good. And you can't get help. You keep looking for somebody in an orange or a blue smock, and they're not there. Let that be a lesson to you. But nonetheless, the people who buy those particular products, who are loyal, fit a very, very, very tight profile, and you don't sell as many LG TVs, for example, as you do cans of peas. It just doesn't happen. Okay, so those two methodologies are important strategically, and so that's why we look at this chapter, and we want to look at the use of unions. There's a business case for doing one versus the other. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead, and I keep throwing that out there, and I guess I'm going to try one more time to see why my copy is not working for me. Maybe I'm not copying it. Let's see. Man, I may still have my mind on what could have been. So I really did want a refrigerator that'll talk to me, because I'm a lonely person. That's not true. There are times I'm lonely, but that, as my parents told me, was solely based upon my behavior. So, hey, what can we say? All right, here we go. We're going to open up our warehouse. Okay, and then we're going to work with chapter 15. And if you take a look there at the bottom of on page 538, this is 15.1. Now, this is the dual code, Oracle and Access, the SQL for a union. Let's watch what's happening. And, you know, you by now, as I promised you, you see it. We've got the first select, really that first piece of the union, and that is we're going to select number one, word one, date one from that section 1501 underscore first. Okay, then the union, we declare that, and then we have the second piece, and we're going to select them from 1501 second, and then we're going to order them. Okay, now in the union, as the authors note at the top, you get the sum of the number of rows, not the product. So this is why I was saying, if your play is, you know, drill down and extract, you'd get a sum. If your play is large law of numbers, then you're going to get more. You get more numbers when you multiply than you do when you add, typically. Okay, and because when you multiply, you start to move into things like squares, cubes, and all that stuff. Now, you'll notice there they give you the beginning tables and for each at the beginning, and then the result tables, and notice the union. Okay, and there's 7 rows that you end up with there. 2 are from the first. Okay, 2 are from the second table, and 3 are from both. Got it? So you've got your 7 records, and we'll just run that just so that you can have it to put in there. And here's my code. Does anybody know who won the World Series game last night? I fell asleep. What? None of you know? Are there any people in this? Who did? Boston won? Okay, I'm glad that there's at least somebody in here who qualifies as a citizen of this great nation. All right. Listen, I fell asleep, and I tell you, it's the most peaceful thing. You know how I fell asleep? I have a formula. I read stuff I've written for journals. Knocks me out just like that. I'm going to get a patent, and I'm going to go to some doctors and say, this is probably the best way to knock out your patients. Okay, there's no opioid involved. It's my small, tiny mind, some poor writing, and some statistics that have been tortured to tell me what I want them to say. It's a beautiful formula that works. Okay, we're going to click create, and we're going to go to the query design, and we'll close that off, and we're going to go over here to the SQL. And again, we've got two tables we're dealing with. We'll run it, and there we are. Now, again, we have, and the book tells us this, there's 7 rows. We've got 2 rows from the first table, 2 rows from the second, and then 3 of them from both. Okay, so we took a combined total of 12 and extracted 7. Okay, good enough. Now, over on 15.1, we're going to do an inner join rather than, they show you an inner join rather than a union. Let me say this for just a second. Let's say this is 15.1. Okay. Now, this is the top of page 359, and here they're going to show us the results of the inner join of those 2 tables. And notice what happens. We end up on the inner join with 5, okay? Now, the maximum product that we can get from there is 35, okay? But since we did just the straight match, we get the 3. But when we do an inner join, the maximum number of rows we can get is simply the number of dimensions or columns times the number of rows. Now, we didn't get the 35 that time because in the inner join, watch what we did. If you take a look, we're going to select everything from A, select everything from B, okay, and then we identify A and B in that next piece of the syntax. And then we did something very important in the last 2 lines of the code. We used a where statement, okay, a statement of equivalence, and then we ordered everything. So by using the statement of equivalence and ordering everything, boom, we ended up with those rows. Now I'm going to do something here and take a shot at it. And I'm going to go back to this first one where we do the inner join. And now I'm going to come over here, and instead of that number, I'm going to end it right there, and let's see what happens. I'm just going to run that straight. I'm not going to use the order. Or I could, I'm going to try something here for just a second. This may or may not work out, but let's see what happens. Now, what I'm going to do is click create. Now I'm going to go in. I'm going to take a piece of that and try to alter that a little bit. And close this off. All right, just remove you. Get out of my face here. Thank you. I'm going to try this. Now what I've done here is I'm going to select everything from A and everything from B. And then I'm going to identify the 2 tables. I want to look at the rest of this code for just a sec. And I'm just going to see what I get if I run this, just leaving those 2 qualifiers off. I may get a mess. I may get something. Let's see. There we go. Now, what you'll see here, now again, Here's what I did with the code. All right. And I just doctored it where I stopped here. So I selected everything from A and everything from B and then identified them. Okay. And now I have all of these. Now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I would bet you I've got 35 in here in these numbers. And I didn't say count distinct so I don't get the numbers, but I've got, there's one set. There's 2 that would make 10. Pardon me. Excuse me. There's 5, 2, 3, 4. 4 sets of 5. I've got 20 records. Follow me? Now you say, well, what's the point? Well, the first thing is I got some time to kill. And it all pays the same. It doesn't for you because I'm not teaching anything. You'll pay for it later. But here's the point. When I'm looking for patterns, okay, this technique is going to show me patterns. Now I'm probably going to have 1,000 or 10,000 sets, but I'll be able to discern a pattern. Now what I probably will have to do is take all of those out, throw them into something where I could maybe use like an Excel where I could put them into a visual, I could create a visual representation of it. Okay. So now if I run the 15.2 exactly as I have it in there, I end up with, excuse me, with basically 3 rows. So I extract, and I'm going to call this let's call this 15.2 because we're just messing around, but that's okay. Now, at the bottom of page 538, the authors talk about the difference between a union and a union all. Okay, a union it gets rid of duplicate rows. Okay, so if we want duplicates out, we use a union. If we don't care, we use a union all. And you might intuitively say, okay, so you're saying if I'm kind of wanting to play the law of large numbers approach, I would use a union all. Yes, because when I leave all the rows in, all right, I'm doing more than leaving all the rows. I'm leaving the dimensions intact. And when I'm leaving the dimensions intact, then I'm kind of taking that analytical cube we talked about and I'm twisting it and turning it. Now, right now, you know more about databases and how to use them than 99% of the managers on planet Earth, excluding all the computer scientists are out there. One of the great challenges that's going to be that will be out there is for people to learn how to use these tools or understand the methodologies and not get fixated on the methods. And databases are inherently far more powerful than an analytical engine for a simple reason. They collect stuff. And when they collect things, you can store them, you can retrieve things, and those are the bullets you put in your gun, if you want to use that analogy, okay, when you go out and go do combat out in business. So this is going to be, we've done 15.2, and we can do 15.3 there, okay, and we'll look at it, and that's over there at 15.2, and that is the union all, okay, and notice what happens with the union all, okay, we're going to get everything from that first table, everything from the second table, and we order it. And we order it simply to get it organized. And then if you take a look at the page, top of page 561, you're going to see the union all. And they show you these where we repeat those 2 records. You see them there as they're highlighted? Yes? So if I'm watching people, for example, I'm going to use a lot of union alls because I want to get any duplicate records I can. Why? Well, the more duplicate records I see, the bigger the more likely there's a pattern in the behavior behind the records. Now, in this case, we're talking about just some numbers or whatever. But when we start talking about numbers like uh, phone number and the person and the location, etc., that becomes a whole different kettle of fish. Okay, and that's important to do. If you've been following the news, okay, and you know that these several prominent figures have received these bombs. Sadly for the bomb makers, they didn't detonate, which means I wouldn't put 2 cents on the life of the bomb maker, because if you make a weapon for bad people and it doesn't work, the bad people will come find you because you know stuff. You know the bad people. You got paid. And so whoever created those weapons, and those are IEDs, if they're alive this moment, I would be shocked. So let that be a lesson. Never, never, never become a person who makes weapons for bad people. Okay? Particularly if there's a great movie out there. It's an old one. It's kind of cool. It's called The Day of the Jackal. And it's the stories back in the 60s, and it's this guy who's going to assassinate Charles de Gaulle. Do any of you know who Charles de Gaulle is? Of course not. He was the guy who was the leader of the French resistance at the Second World War, and he came back and he was president of France. Great hero. But there's stories about this guy who is going to assassinate Charles de Gaulle. And so he has a man who makes a special rifle for him. And of course, the guy who makes the special rifle, the jackal, kills him. So let that be a lesson. Don't make weapons for bad people. You promise me you won't? Do I have to have you lift your hand and give me the pledge? Yes? No? Okay. I do. I have had to in other classes, but I'm going to trust you're all sensible people. So if you look over here at over on 15.3, you're going to see now we're going to use some flags. So let's grab that code and we'll play with it a little bit. And I want to look at 15.3. And see, they've got John Patrick from Dual. Order by word. They've got order by last name. That's strange. Oh, I'm on 4. All right. No wonder. No C's right there. All right, here we go. Okay. I'm going to just type in. Let me talk you through it real quick before I don't know what's going on with me today. We're going to select the last name and the first name, and then we're going to do a count of the lunches. Okay. And we have an alias there for the column, number of lunches, and then we get that from employees A and lunches B. So we identify A and B. Okay, we've done that shorthand, use the alias, and then we use a statement of equality where the employee ID matches up. Okay, then we're going to group them. And then we use the halving clause where it has a count that is less than 5. So far, so good. Then we're going to do the union all, and that means we'll get all the records. We won't eliminate any duplicates. Then we're going to select Patrick, John. Okay. Now this is what, remember we've messed with this before. It's called a hard code or an absolute that we stick in there. And and then we've got the 0 from dual, and we're going to order it by the last name. Okay. And over on page 336 to 37, if I'm not mistaken, it will explain to you about the dual. Okay. But then we're going to do the union all. And here's the result set that we get. Okay. Now we've flagged in John Patrick as 0 meals. Okay. Now, why would we do? What's the point of this? Well, if I'm playing the law of large numbers, like I would be with a union all, and I have a criterion, I can create a criterion record and see how everything else falls around. This might be like credit scores for people where I have a credit score record. I put in a dummy, okay, something artificial, and then I can look and see how everybody falls around it. And that would, for my experience base, that would be the one that I would say would probably be the most prevalent in terms of how you use it. So we're going to select, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy all that. Then I'll get the rest of it here. Create. So we use John Patrick as, and we use the John Patrick as a dummy record, and we put in 0. You say, well, why would you need a dummy record if you could run all the records and you could get the average or whatever you're after, some type of summary data, an average, a mode, whatever. Well, there are going to be some times where you'll want to create a tranche that's not naturally occurring. Okay, let's say you wholesale mortgages. Okay, and you want to have some risk tranches that you create for people who are buying these loans from you. Or maybe you're a wholesaler, maybe you're a mortgage wholesaler, and you sell to account servicers. Okay, there's an outfit like the Money Store. The Money Store services mortgage accounts. Okay, because they're complex, and so you might put in some data that creates some risk tranches. Okay, or maybe I don't know, maybe you have some people that say, I'm going to pay at the front of the month instead of the end, all that type of thing. You just interject that in there. And then you've got something you can work with in terms of what it looks like. And that assumes you're going to take these records and you're going to and you're going to export them and throw them into an analytical engine where you can do whatever statistically you want, but probably more importantly for you, do some visualization with them. Okay. Now, again, they've got the union all. So you've got the beginning tables and then you get the end table. Now, 15.4 is over on page 566. And this is 15.3. Now, I know I'm not going through all of these, but what I'm trying to do is to show you some of the business sense behind this, and hopefully I'm succeeding, although at times I wonder myself. But if you take a look there, for example, at 15.4 over on page 564, you could see, okay, that we've got the union, and the maximum number of rows we can get is going to be 10 because we have 5 rows. And when we do union, it's an additive property, okay? So we're going to get 10 rows. And they show us we select the number, the word, we do the union, and we select, and we order it by word 1 And the authors there, the authors highlight that word one, okay? And the reason being is so you can see which table, okay, which dimension is going to kind of take over everything, and it's going to be word one because you've ordered everything in that fashion. When I do a sort, this will take you back to 1123. When I do a sort, boom, I'm working with dimensions. When I do a filter, I'm working with records, and I can kind of set the table in terms of the dimension that I choose. Well, they show us the result table, okay? And here we end up with 7 rows, okay? And we've got, I think, I'm going to look at, I make notes for myself. We've got 3 from both tables, 2 from one, and 2 from two, and that gives us the 7 tables, which is a holy number, which is why I ran this. See how I integrate faith with learning? I want you to remember that. We did 7, so we have a holy number. Okay. I'm going to look through here for a moment, and you can slap that in if you want. It's going to be 15:4. We might as well. We're here. And the author's going to give us he's going to give us sets of stuff. All right, click create. And notice we've got that word one. We order everything around it, and we end up with the 7 rows. Now, just because we order everything around it doesn't mean it's going to show up in the first column. That's not going to be typical. What will happen is when there's a sort or a filter, the machine will, first time it finds it, that becomes the primary sort. And we can see this. This is 15:4. I'll save it first of all. And then we'll go down to the design view. You'll see this. And that's the GUI view, which is the one you'll be working on, you'll be most used to. Well, maybe they're going to let me see it. No, they're just going to take me to SQL. Yeah, okay. That's too bad. All right. Now, over on page 568, okay, he shows us this is Oracle and not SQL. He's going to create a view, okay, using a union, all right, and that's in the text file, but it won't work with Access. But the logic of it's pretty simple. I'm going to create or replace a view, and then I'm going to do a union with a second table, and I'm going to order it. So that's one of the reasons a lot of people like Oracle, because it's got a little more flexibility. There's some workarounds you have to do to get that done as far as SQL, and the author shows you that over there on page 569 as he walks you through the step 1, okay, and then you've got to do a step 2. And so it just becomes this awful thing. Now, the author walks you through some good food for thought. It's not too jargonistic, but will give you some good ideas as he talks about automatic data type conversion in a union. Okay, when we perform a union, the data are automatically converted, which I think is a beautiful analogy between what happens when you and I come to a saving knowledge in Christ. Okay, what happens? Well, the Holy Spirit comes into your being. You become a temple of the Holy Spirit. Anybody know who said that? Was it Peter, Paul, John, or Ringo? My body's the temple of the Holy Spirit. To a good Jew, that was blasphemy. There's only one temple. Your body? Yeah. But that's a good example. So union is a good example of God's grace. And the good work he began in you, he will finish. Okay? Paul said also, and this should help you feel good about it. Yeah, when you go to church, if you do like I do every Sunday, okay, I don't listen, I don't pay attention, and I don't care, but I'm there, okay? But if you're a good Baptist, you probably get a lot of guilt put on you, okay? I can tell you the main 3 points of any sermon in any Southern Baptist church on any given Sunday. 1, give more money. 2, come to church more. And 3, witness to more people. And then you wrap everything else around that, okay? And it's easy if you're a believer and you're a devout person to beat yourself up. It's quite easy, okay? If the Apostle Paul, who was the Alabama of all Christians, the world's top Christian, said, I do the things I shouldn't do. I don't do the things I should. And then what does he say? He says, thanks be to God for Jesus Christ, because he knows that when we compare us to God, we're a long way off. We'll never get there. But God's making us, we are a work in progress, okay? So that should encourage you, because the work he started in you, that union, okay, which occurred, is on its way. Now, I want to say one other thing, and this is, again, a little added faith integration stuff. There will be probably some of you who had a conversion experience at a young age. You heard a sermon, you heard, and you thought, okay, my wife's story is probably when she was at church, her mother tells the story of how Julie jugged on her, grabbed her mother's thing and said, I want to go down and get Jesus. And her mother said, you're too young. Well, and then you have people who in their teens or later on will go, I'm not really sure I knew what I was doing, so I'm going to go ahead and do another profession. I'll get dunked again. Now, there's no point to get dunked twice unless the baptistry comes with some rubber duckies, maybe colored water lights, a deal. Okay? Otherwise, why risk drowning at the hands of some old associate pastor who's been given a job because they're the only one who still fits in the waiters? Okay? Why take the risk? God is the one who does the work, not you or me. He's the one that saves us. I mean, you should always remember that. See, if you get anything from this class and you say, well, I learned in Dr. Harmon's class that when I'm saved, it's a union. Okay? And don't worry about it if your life isn't like it. Listen, when you go to chapel, and I know, and you get beat on. You get every retread preacher who comes through OBU grad they can slam in there to give you trouble. Hey, don't let it get you down, okay? Don't let it get you down, because the good work that started in you, it's going to continue, regardless of whether you and I are like it or not. In fact, the Bible says the Holy Spirit, what does he do? He's like praying for us, and we can't even do that. So if you think you can be righteous, put up your Pharisee outfit and join the rest of the human race. Now, that does not mean, God forbid, that sin should abound, as Paul says. That doesn't mean you have the right tonight to go home and watch all those dirty movies on Cinemax you wanted to watch when mom and dad are gone, or watch from here. Not at all. What it does mean is you and I can live in freedom from the fear of, I've messed up, so I got to go find a goat. I got to kill it, all that stuff. Oh. When I lived in St. Louis, there's a part of St. Louis, it's called Delmar. So there's Delmar Street, and there's a University City, and right outside of it is a community of Hasidic Jews. And these are people who are very, very devout. It was so fascinating on Saturday nights when I was headed to eat maybe some pork chops, whatever, that would have been totally offensive to them. They were very devout people, and they're in their full garb. And so a couple of times I thought, I'm going to stop and talk to somebody. And what amazed me was they started inviting me to their home. And so I'd go in. This is Saturday's a Sabbath. Okay. So having a Gentile and a really obnoxious one like me was a deep sin. It was interesting to talk to them because they understood a whole lot about the nuances, but boy, the law weighed heavy on their mind. And they're good people. But don't let that, you don't have to live in that kind of fear. Isn't that a wonderful thing? So if your query doesn't work right, you're okay. If you get the wrong sum on your algorithm, you're okay. That's an amazing thing. Isn't that nice to know? You don't really have to worry about that. I'll tell you what, I feel so good after sharing that. I think I need an offering. So somebody get a hat out. Dr. Flint handles my money. By the way, as many of you don't know, he and I are part of an evangelistic team. I preach, he handles the money. Okay? So if you ever want to hear the business profit, our phone number is 1-800-BIBLE. Okay? What can I say? So we've covered some territory that I'm integrating our faith with learning. So I'll tell you that book narrative, though, there, page 570 and 571, there are a lot of analogies there about a database and how God works in our life. I think one of the saddest things I ever encountered was a very dear man who was in my Sunday school class. Yes, they let me teach Sunday school at First Church more. That tells you how poorly they screen. And he asked me, is it really true that when I die, God's going to play a videotape of my life and everybody will see every bad thing I've ever done? Isn't that sad? That's not salvation to me or gospel. And that's sad. Very, very sad. So away we go. Now, if you take a look over there, and there's also there's a lot of good discussion there about automatic conversion of data types. Okay? And different people experience different things when they have their conversion experience. There may be some of you who, like I, had to go through an emotional salvation experience, and then you had to go through an intellectual one. And in my 20s, I went through a great amount of questioning about that. And I had a wonderful professor over at OU who was a very conservative Catholic. And we'd have discussions. I remember Dr. Williams looked at me and said, "You're a Baptist. You've actually read the Bible and you still don't believe?" And I thought, okay. So it's back to the drawing board for me. And hey, what can I say? Okay, let's look over there on page 572. And we're going to see they're going to walk through a query there and we can use the GUI. And we're going to take they show us a beginning table, okay? And then the beginning table with the short columns, and then they give us this result with the number column and the text column. And he gives you a step 1, okay? Then the step 2, and then you run the select for the view and do a union view. And that's one of the things that he's trying to show you there is working through this can be a little bit disconcerting. And probably if you're going to do that, you'll want to use the GUI. You'll want to use that portion. And when I talk about the GUI, here's what I'm talking about. Click create. And the design area. Got it? Good. The author on 573 for 574 covers unconventional unions, okay? And there in 15.7, he talks about a union of tables with different data types, okay? And he's got some code in there. And if you go down and you look at the access code, the format, okay, that format function is a killer, okay? it's not going to work for you in Access. And you have to do some finagling and some work with the code to get the result set. And that's the beginning column, beginning table with long columns, and the beginning table with short columns, and then a created view. Okay? So in the Access, he tells you to create the query and then use the GUI to get the result set. Okay? And all of this is because you're using different data types. Now, 2 points come to my mind. Number one, the reason that people who work with what we call so-called big data use the R programming is because R programming, is designed to do two things. One, handle extremely large data sets, and number two, to handle data that are in different types. Okay? When I see this, it also reminds me of my parents, and I'll never forget it as long as I live. I asked my dad, I said, my mom and dad were such different people. And I said, why did you two get married and stay married? Were you happy? And here's what my father said, which I thought was quite profound. Who said marriage is about happiness? I'll bet you if more people had that attitude, we wouldn't have the divorce rate we have. Now, I'm certain my parents considered murder on a weekly basis, but divorce was out of the question. Once you made the commitment, you're there. And I'll never forget that. He said, who said marriage is about happiness? Okay, maybe I need to rethink some definitions. Doesn't mean you can't have happiness, but there's more. It's an institution, a whole lot more to it. So the data type issue is one of them I wanted to alert you to. Then different number of different columns. Now, over there on page 576, they walk you through two tables with different number of columns and how to handle them. Okay, now I'm going to open this up for just a second. I want to show you. Let's go down here to 15.8. Now, on this very first line of code, let's see. I'm gonna put as number and then underscore column, COL, and then I need to add the comma. And what else did I do to this? Use the uppercase for the text. So I think I did this. Yeah, but maybe I did. I did the part. See here, A, and then I put UCase, and then I put the text column in brackets. Pardon me, UCase, and the text column in brackets. I put it in the bracket here. I've got the parentheses, the brackets, so I've got the UCase. And what else did I do this? I did some formatting. Okay, and date call as date underscore call. And COL is for the call. Did I do the, yes, date call from the columns up? It should be DATE. And then we do the union. the null. I'm going to run this first with this first. Well, I'll just go ahead and batch through it. Select the B number call. B.text call. So I'm going to use, what I'm doing here on these texts is I'm using the uppercase function. So a U case, and then I put the bracket to make sure I don't have any issues in terms of a parameter error by not recognizing what I've got. And oops, parentheses. Better check that on the top one. Okay, and then I've got the null. And I'm going to try and run this and see what I've done to myself. Probably messed it up. I'll go from, wait a minute here at the top. As number call. Okay, I did the second number call. Oh. I don't want that A there. Comma. All right. Let's see what I did. Okay, I'm going to control that and stand still. Create. Now we're just, again, this is just showing us some of the challenges we ran into with the format. Yeah. And fine. A.UK. Yeah, it's going to give me some troubles there on using that. I'll have to play that another time. I don't want to spend any more time on it, but I'll take a look at my notes to see what I did there with that uppercase. Now, let's see what else we've got in here. Again, this is the issue that we run into with some of these. Let's see. Tables. I'm just going to see if I can just run the thing with just the raw code. So I'm going to get rid of that. No. So I'm just going to run the raw code there on 15.8 and see what I get. May not be pretty, but we'll get something, I think. Okay. Now, what I was trying to do was to create uppercase, and I don't want to take the time to play around with it because I've got that IAU case. That's not in the. It is in there, isn't it? Uppercase. Okay. If you take a look at what I've got highlighted right there, what we're trying to do is create what is the uppercase for the text column, and we're using the U case. Then we've got a column. We've got a column alias there, and then we try to on B we try to and we try to use the U case, the uppercase function on the text column, and it doesn't blow through. So I'm going to take the U case off of that. And we've got the text column. And so we get those we get the bracket off the parentheses. And that was one of the issues. Okay. That's date call. And we got the U case down here again. I'll go back and look at that, Jewel, see what was the issue, why I couldn't run it. Okay. Next call. All right. And we'll see what we got. Here we go. And we'll just do a create, redesign, where we go. Now, let's see what we get. Oh, there it is. Forget it. Okay, I got it. It's called select, not elect. I was thinking of the elect. You know I'd say that. All right, here we go. There we go. Now, what they want us to get, and what I was trying to get, was a result table that looks like the top of page 577. Okay, and that was why I was trying to use the uppercase on those text columns, but we get an uppercase, and then the rest are lower. Then we've got the dates, and we have some null values that come in, and we did that. See, we selected the time you did the union, and then we did the null. Now, the one, if you take a look there on that note, he's got the null highlighted, and then the note's over at page 577. And this where the extra column is added. It's also possible to use a literal, like we did with that John Patrick, to create a new column. Okay, and all we've done there is by using that null, we've added in a third column. We've added the number column, the text column, and then a date. Okay, that's all that we've done. Is we've just simply added in that third column, and we're going to have some null values there along with some of them. Okay. There are some other good techniques he's got over here. One of them is there at the bottom of page 574, and that's where they determine if two tables are identical. Okay. Now, he has the select, and here it is. He has to select the count from L foods, from the food, and then select the count from the section 1509 foods. Okay. Now, in each case, we should get an expression figure. Hey, pardon me. And these other two, I'm going to call them 15-41, because we can't use the dots, and then the other I'll save as 15-42, and we're good. So let's run that code there, and actually there are two queries there, and if you want to run it, go ahead. But at the bottom of page 578, you're going to see we do select count, okay, and then we have the asterisk to get everything, and that's from the foods table, and we get 10 rows. And then we do the select count from the foods table, the 1509 foods table, and we get 10 rows. Okay. Now, we probably did a little bit too much work, because you said, why couldn't I just go into the tables, use the GUI, click on the table, and look at how many rows are there? Yeah, but the author wanted to show you a bit about using select count, okay? And that's all that's about there. Now he starts to get us into some wild stuff, or some extraneous kinds of things. When he has you create a view that's a union of two tables. Now, he shows you the Oracle steps, and he shows you the access steps. And if you look at the bottom of page 578, he shows you the dual step, okay, for each of those. And then on 580, he's going to walk you through Oracle step 2, access step 2, and then the Oracle and access step 3 combined. And you're just going to have to follow one string out or the other. It's a lot of work to find out that you've got a count of 10, when if every table had a count, you'd know that in the first place. So that's a good reason to use an auto number in every record. And you don't have to make it. It's not always going to be the same as it is like with access, where it wants to make it the primary key. Now at the bottom of page 581, he does some more work with the literal. Now a lot of people go, okay, what do you mean the literal? Okay, literal is something that I type in or put into a query that's not in either of the tables, but I just insert it. And if you take a look at the bottom page 581, you're going to see that. We're going to select the number one, the word one, the date one, and then notice, see, and now he has single quotes, and you'll want to use double quotes from the first table as source of the data from 1510 the first, and then we do union all. And then he comes down here in the right under the union all, and he adds in another literal, and that is from the second table. Okay, and you want to use the double quotes there, not the single quotes. So let's go back down there to 1510, and I'm going to use double quotes instead of single quotes. So I'll do it. Shift from, and then I'll get rid of that single quote. I use a double quote. And it vexes me. This is one of the things I wish that they'd correct. That I wish they'd correct in Access and in Oracle. Make it one uniform. Oh, we're gonna select one pin. Okay, so we're gonna run that and see what we get. We should be okay with the double quotes. I think if I'm correct, we will be. So I'll create a query, okay? And I'll go down to the SQL view, then we'll run it. Now, what we've run into is dealing with, there we go. Now, what we've done here in terms of the literals is we've made sure that we identify where each row comes from, okay? Now, the literal is just simply something you typed in there, okay? Probably a better way to do it would be to have a column that has a code with it. And if you're inputting the data, there'd probably be a form when the data are being inputted, but at your end of things, this way you know what table it came from. That's all. And it's just like it's a flag, it's a message, but it's a literal because you've inserted it there, okay? And then over on page 583, he talks about warning flags. And then on page 585, he does something kind of interesting, okay? And he takes a table and splits it in two. So let's go over to page 585 and take a look at that, okay? And that's going to be 1512. You say, why would I want to do this? Well, you're going to recognize some terms, okay? And you're going to see, I know for some of you, debits, credits, I understand. Let's copy that. Now what we have is a redesign, close, is for all intents and purposes, we have the stuff of a beginning table like a journal, okay? And we're going to run this, Jewel, and look at what we get. We took the table and we split it based on our criteria, so we get debits and credits. Okay. We chunked the code. When we went in here, notice what we did. We selected the item, and then we did null, okay, as debits, costs as credits. So we're going to wipe out the debits because we said if it's a debit, it's a null. Okay. And we're going to get that from the section 1512 finances table. Now, I'm going to look at that table so that you can see it. And this one's going to be 15. This is 1512. We'll say it is 1512. And we're coming down here. Let's see, 1504. 1512, where are you? Okay, here's 1512 finances. I'm going to open the table and notice what we have. Okay, we basically have kind of a general journal, just a list of expenses, or it looks like your checkbook. Okay, stuff you've encumbered. Now, we split that in two so we can create debits and credits. And we did that using the null. Now, if you look at the bottom under the union all, you're going to see that this time we have select the item cost, okay, and then we have a null. So that takes that cost out, okay, and then we say from the finances table where the cost is less than 0 or the cost is null, order by item. So we literally have split the table, and we started with the debits and split those out, and then we took the debits and we split those out. You see it? This is a real tiny baby example. Okay, this would be like me saying, okay, here's a little paper airplane kit. Let's make it. And we throw it across the room, and here's the Airbus. You said, what do you mean? Well, one of the things that really makes databases powerful is this ability to use some qualifiers, especially the null, to generate additional columns so we can take a table and divide it out. Okay? And so you've seen us add stuff in, you've seen us drill down and extract, and now we just split the thing apart. And that's what's happened there. So we look at that, and we've got birthday gifts, okay, all that good stuff. Now, it's 144. Oh, my goodness. Class didn't go as long as I wanted to today. Listen, I want to say something. You guys are embarrassing me, and you're upsetting the dean. When you come in here for data admin, would you please stop stomping on the room and going data admin, data? It upsets the other faculty, makes them jealous. Please stop. Okay. And for those of you who are caught in that photo with Dr. I think over the fall thing, it was Dr. Reader. I think I had you over there drinking whiskey at Chick-fil-A. I'd get that off my social media now. I warned him. I'm teasing you. Okay, now here's a question before we get out of here. I'm seeing these things here, these here debits and credits, okay? And I'm looking over here and it says rent for April. Now I don't know if our author had an April was his daughter, or he's dating April, or April's his wife, but why is April showing up as a credit? Don't ask me that. I've been beaten up enough by the team of accountants from hell. I understand. Why is it positive? Why is it? Come on, you know it. Say it or I'm going to go fetal. It'll be ugly. Why is it a credit? It's rent. What is rent? Oh. All right. Have you all had accounting 1 and fundamentals of accounting? Did you have accounting 2? Did you have to take it? Okay, let's stop. Let's become one. Let's become one with the ledger. Is anybody with me? Why is rent a credit? Because it's a what? It's a prepaid expense. So you've paid up, but if you leave and or the place burns down, and you're there on the 15th, they owe you how much money? Well, it depends on if it's a 31 or 30 days, right? It's a prepaid expense. A prepaid expense. Rent. Then you got the Samsonite suitcase. Well, that makes sense. I worked for my mom and dad. First time I worked, I was 10 years old. It's funny because when you do audit your Social Security, if you go to, and when you start doing this now, or when you hit 30, start doing it. But you can go and do an audit of Social Security to see how much you've paid in. And I was I was looking at mine. I went down to the place there that's there in Moore, and I was looking, and the lady who was checking it said, "What happened to you in 2006?" I said, "My car broke down in Shawnee, and they've never brought it back." There's one of you I sense in here who someday will remember me and say, "I'm trapped just like he was." It's like the Hotel California. You can never leave. See, once you become part of the green and gold, you can never escape. We put stuff in the water that makes you want to come back. How many of you are green and gold people? What? You're not? You better be. Didn't you learn the Carib? Did you have to wear beanies as freshmen? Did people beat you up and jump? It was bad here. But then I learned something very quickly. I found a senior lady who would go out with me, and then all of it stopped. You know why? She was a shot putter for the team. She weighed about 400 pounds, and she could whoop anybody. Best girlfriend I had at the time. That's not true. She only weighed 350. Okay. All right, my friends. That's it for today. God bless you. We've made some progress here in chapter 15. So we'll call it that. You can on your own play around with some more of the remainder of 15. There's some more things to do there, set intersections and stuff. I would challenge you to do that, but I think we've drained all the fun out of this we can. All right, owe you 4 minutes. God bless you, folks. Thank you. And I will. You'll want to save this and upload it for your 15, your lunches database 15.